Hello friends. Today I'm making a video that's making me have anxiety. I'm just going to tell you that straight up. So I have lots of notes as I make this. Today is World Mental Health Day, and I decided that I'm coming out. Less than a month ago, I went through standardized testing and I was diagnosed with autism, generalized anxiety disorder, and major depressive disorder. This makes me a late diagnosed autistic person. I have a high IQ, but I struggle with social anxiety, and I have many common traits of other neurodiverse people. I'm just going to read for a bit. I hope that doesn't upset you too much. I want to just make sure that I cover everything that I wanted to cover. So other traits that I have that other neurodiverse people have are like collecting, needing structure, masking, which I'll explain later, perfectionism, OCD, people pleasing, feeling less than, and panic attacks. I had thought for a long time that I had ADHD, and I've even mentioned that in some of my videos on YouTube, and it turns out that I don't have ADHD. I don't have any attention issues as I look off to the distance as an autistic trait. But anyway, autism is genetic, and so I was born with it. And it was really shocking that I didn't have ADHD, because even though I don't have attention problems, I have several of the other traits. I like the dopamine hits and I have a squirrel brain, which I've probably talked about. If you know me, you know that my brain jumps from, it can take 5 different courses of conversation, and it jumps from thought to thought to thought. And a lot of times, most time, it winds back around. But, okay, so getting into my story a little bit, I started psychotherapy in the spring because several things in my life were making me feel very overwhelmed to the point that I needed professional help. I was having mental struggles, and they're not anything to be ashamed of. I was really in depressive mode, and I had just felt a couple days where I just didn't want to be here anymore. And so that's why I knew I needed help. My goal of this video is to bring awareness to neurodiversity, which there's a lot on YouTube, so I'm just one more story. But I want people to start taking as much care of their mental health as they do of their physical health, because we're whole people. We are not just one or another. We are a spirit, a soul, and a physical body. So a couple of things I've learned in therapy about myself is that I mask, which is stuffing my feelings to appease others. And that can also be like not acknowledging, like you have these expectations in your mind that you think other people feel for you, and sometimes they do, but sometimes they're built up in your own mind, and you don't want to disappoint anyone, and so you stuff your own feelings. And I've been doing this, I'm in my 50s, and I've been doing this for a long time, my whole life really. And so going through the process of uncovering my feelings, because I've been in therapy about 6 months now, has been very enlightening. Like, there are things that my therapist one day told me that I don't have to like everyone. And I was like, what? And when I really thought about, are there people I don't like? There actually were. So that was really enlightening and hard for me. There's been a lot of hard things coming to terms with who I really am, but it's also been freeing, very freeing. One thing about autism is that I don't see boundaries naturally, but I can be taught them, and which is why I often enter a new scenario or situation, and I am real quiet in the beginning. I'm observing the people around me, kind of trying to figure out the rules of the room before I engage. These kind of new situations also cause anxiety for me. Change can be very difficult. If you know me, we moved to Nebraska a year and a half ago, and not quite a year and a half ago, but close. And this was like my 30 or 31st move since I graduated high school. So you wouldn't think that change would be hard for me, but it is. And I'm only realizing that through therapy because I was a Girl Scout and I'm also a Christian. So like in the Bible, it says to be prepared. And as a Girl Scout, it says be prepared. And so I'm always prepared. So like if there's a change coming, I try to do as much mental preparation as I can before the change. So I'm very highly organized. I don't know if I mentioned that I have a high IQ. And so I don't struggle with like figuring out tasks. I'm a really good fixer and a problem solver and an organizer. Those are some of my superpowers, I think. And so change goes well and goes smoothly if I'm mentally prepared. The change that I struggle with is things that slam me in the face that I'm not prepared for. And it takes time for me to adjust to them. The boundary thing is also a superpower because we can just keep going and discovering. Like you don't have I haven't said it yet, but I am a spirit-filled Christian. And when I think about God, I don't think about God in a box. He doesn't fit into these specific rules because in my opinion, God can do anything and he has in my life. Getting back to the autism and neurodiversity, every person is different and that includes neurodivergent people. So an autistic person like me with anxiety and depression, it's a cocktail, but you can have ADHD people with anxiety and depression. You can have bipolar disorder. You can have just anxiety and depression. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that neurodivergent people can, how their brain works. So why am I telling you all of this? That's the next question. And for me, I feel like because it's Mental Health Day, one thing that we need to do is create awareness. Having neurodiversity does not necessarily mean deficient, and it means different. And it doesn't mean less than. People are, everybody is valuable. Everybody has something to contribute. Another thing I want to share with neurodiverse people is to be gentle with yourself, because I spent a lifetime of not doing that. I have struggles with perfectionism and OCD, and having this diagnosis has opened this light in my life that just it's crazy. I've been processing it's been almost a month, and so I'm still in the process of processing what this means for me, but I'm recognizing behaviors in myself from childhood that, we only knew what we knew back then, but we know more now. And so just having the information helps me to understand myself better and accept myself better and realize that my value is valuable. It's the things that I do are necessary. I'll get to that later too. I also want to advise of some coping mechanisms that I have in place that might be helpful for other neurodiverse people. So here we go. I'm a spirit-filled Christian, and I know that God is in control, and that helps me a lot and gives me peace, but not always. He says we will have trouble in this world, but he's always with us and available to us. And I have found this to be very true in my life. One example is that a couple years ago, I was sitting at a stoplight in my car and I was hit head on by a bus. And as the bus came toward me, I knew I was going to die. And so I put my hands at 10 and 2 and I relaxed my body because those are things I had read about. And I just called out, Jesus, please. And I had 7 impacts. The bus hit me straight on and pushed me into other cars and twisted me around and up on a median and all this stuff. But in that moment, there was not even a crack in the windshield. My airbags went off, so I fractured my collarbones. I got whiplash, but I thought I was dead, and I wasn't. I got out of the car when the car stopped. I actually got out of the car and was walking around. Yes, I was in shock. Yes, it was a disaster area. But but I survived. And 5 years before that, almost to the day, I bounced down a set of stairs and broke my back in 2 places. And I lay there for 6-7 minutes catching my breath. And then I stood up and I walked a block. That was also God. So there's just no way that in my life that I could think anything other than that God is always with us and God is there for us and God is faithful when we call on him. So the next thing for me that's a good coping mechanism is art. It's been my saving grace. When I draw, paint, or doodle, I go into a peaceful state of mind. Doodling especially helps me to keep my hands busy so that my mind can better focus on things that I want to focus on. Like I've started studying art history again. I took some art history classes and art classes in college. I have a humanities degree, so that's kind of part of the whole parcel. But I focused my creativity on writing at the time, so I have an English literature minor, but I took a lot of art classes, and now for the last 7-8 years I've been curating my own art education. But I can focus on art history. I can listen to podcasts or audiobooks and Bible studies. So I have a series. This is one of the main reasons for making this video is because I have a series of YouTube doodle videos, and they're just free to watch. And on my website dmpaul.com I have free printables, and you can print off a doodle page and doodle along with me. You can do it on your own time. You can color it. You can you can print it off for your kids. You can print as many copies off. This is my mission. My mission is to help neurodiverse people doodle themselves calm. And also, if you know anybody else that can benefit from it, feel free to share. Painting and drawing help me get into the flow state, which is a good time for me to worship and connect with God. And I just love that time, and I'm very peaceful in my spirit at that time. Other coping mechanisms include having very scheduled times and days for things. An example of this is through therapy. I realized this. I didn't know before, but I have specific times that I eat. I eat 3 meals a day, and I didn't know that I had that until I started getting anxiety. We moved to where my husband's mom lives, and she would say, come for dinner at 4 o'clock on Sunday. And I started having almost a panic attack because I don't eat at 4 in the afternoon. I eat at 5:30 to 7. And it sounds silly, but it's part of my structured day that makes me feel safe and secure. Like I'm moving through the day as a normal person. So schedules are important. I have days like laundry days, or days, like I said, as long as I can plan ahead. So like if you make appointments, or if I make appointments, as long as I know they're coming, I pay attention to them. But I am one of those people that if I have an appointment at 2 p.m, I really am not good for scheduling or doing anything specific up until that appointment time because I don't want to miss it. Let's see. Timers can be really helpful for people that are neurodivergent because a lot of times we procrastinate, we get overwhelmed, we think that this is such a big thing, and because we can see the whole picture, and we have struggle with taking things step by step. So like if you set a timer for 10 minutes and say, okay, I'm going to read this big, heavy tome book for 10 minutes, then you set the timer and you can start knowing that it's just a small step. But then when the timer goes off, then you can choose if you want to quit or if you want to keep going. Most of the time I keep going. You don't want to do the dishes, set a timer. I'm going to rinse dishes and put them in the dishwasher for 5 minutes and then see where you're at. You might be almost done. And so you're like, okay, I'm just going to wash up these pans. So that's something that's really helpful. I also have sensory issues, which I've always known, but I didn't know why. I didn't know it was because it's an autistic trait. But like one of the reasons you always see me have my hair pulled off my face is because I can't stand anything touching my face like that. I also have very particular types of clothing. I wear very loose clothing. Anything tight, any jean material, things like that, they cause me anxiety. Another coping skill is to surround yourself with things that bring you joy. Favorites of mine are t-shirts and mugs by other artists. Like today, for example, I'm wearing a t-shirt by my friend Deb at Wild Rainbow Co. Other artists that I particularly like are Rafi Perez. I have several of his t-shirts. And Jan Fagan, I like her. She's a fantasy artist. These are just some of my favorites that I like to wear. Mugs have turned into one of my collections. I was talking about how autistic people like to collect things. I made this really cool, my creativity made this really cool display. I call it my coffee corner, and I have 50 mugs hanging up. I have more mugs in the cupboard, and then I also make mugs on my Etsy shop, so I don't have enough room for all my mugs, but it's fun because I can change them out. I have seasonal ones. I put on my tier trays. I can, it's fun. Another thing is I collect art supplies, which my husband and my daughter think I'm a little bit of a hoarder, but I use them. I have lots of different color watercolors. I have lots of markers and pens. Those are really my favorite. If I take a class in something and I have tools, I do not get rid of the tools. I might get rid of the supply products, like if it's clay and it dries out or whatever. But like I took a wood carving class a long time ago and I got rid of most of the wood blocks that I had, but I kept the tools. So I picked that up. That was about 18, 20 years ago that I took the class, and there's been a couple times over the years where I've picked those back up. Another thing I kind of hoard a little bit is yarn. I love yarn. Buying yarn is a separate hobby from knitting or crocheting, which I do both of those things. But I love putting my yarn in rainbow colors. And I'm so blessed right now to have both my art studio here where I'm at, and then my fiber art studio downstairs where I have all my yarn and sewing product things. So that's fun. I love different kinds of teas, and I also collect books and gnomes. And every move that we've had, because my husband, we didn't live anywhere very long. I've been married 26 years. We have weight allowances whenever we would move, and so I'd have to always get rid of books because books are heavy. But I love books. I also love gnomes. In our last couple moves, I've gotten rid of a lot of my gnomes. But if you know me, you know that about me because I draw them. I've written about them. I have them in my home. I'm also another trait of autism is stimming, and lots of people know about those traits, like rocking back and forth, or someone I know that's autistic, if she touches this side, she has to touch this side. Just a lot of stimming. So like crocheting for me helps keep my hands busy so that I don't do any of those other biting your nails is one. And there's just things that they're self-soothing activities that you can do unconsciously, rocking your foot, moving around a lot. Let's see what else. As an autistic, I have a strong sense of justice and right and wrong, and this causes me to be really honest. And sometimes I say things to people and I don't mean to upset anyone or hurt anybody's feelings, but I do unintentionally sometimes hurt people's feelings. But I never want to do that. My goal is I always just want to love people, but we're all different. We all make different choices and we all have different opinions. And with the differences comes conflict sometimes. But my heart is always just to help people. The social anxiety that I have makes it hard for me to try to make new friends. I'm just been really blessed with a handful of close people that really keep me sane. So this move here, I haven't really gone out of my comfort level zone to try to make new friends. I'll keep in contact with the friends I have, like video calls and phone calls. And so I'm in my house a lot. Going to therapy every week or two has also helped me to get out, because when we moved here, I went into depression and I didn't even realize that until this spring. And something happened that popped me out of the depression when I went to therapy. Then I started realizing, well, she helped me to realize. And my therapist is neurodivergent, so it has made a huge difference, because if I have 5 trails of conversation, she can follow them. It's really important to, if you're struggling with your mental health, to find someone that you connect with. I know people that have been through like 10 therapists and they have never connected with anybody, but it's very important that you're honest with yourself and you're honest with your therapist, first of all, by talking and telling the true things that are bothering you. And then secondly, if their attitude towards you is, you feel if they're judgmental, or if they're trying to push their ideas on you, that is not a good therapist, I don't think. I think a good therapist will ask you questions and help you figure things out for yourself. Mine is amazing. And that's about it. That's more that I could say, but I'm already going out of my comfort zone just doing this video. And I hope that I completed my goals today, which was to bring awareness to late diagnosed autism, because I'm 54 and they don't have a lot of information about female autism. They didn't have a lot of information when I was a kid about that. And I always felt like a weirdo and I didn't fit. And so when I got my autism diagnosis, I was shocked and dismayed that I wasn't ADHD, because I had thought that for several years. But then the pieces started fitting into place, and I've only told my very close friends and family about it. And so, like I said, doing this video, and it feels very vulnerable. It feels like, I've been bullied a lot in my life, and it feels like this is like something you put out there and get ready to get bullied. There's a lot of internet trolls and whatever. I don't care. Knowing who I am is giving me confidence about who I am. Figuring out things like my brain was made differently. Another really interesting thing that, just quick before I go, is that 2 days after my diagnosis, a friend of mine received a prophetic word from God that spoke to neurodiversity, anxiety, depression. And I felt like this was a word directly for me. And she was talking about how, what God said was that I was designed this way. I was designed perfectly to understand him, which I do. And, that also gave me a lot of confidence. I find my value in being a child and a daughter of the Most High King. I love Jesus. The Father has been so good to me. The Holy Spirit lives in me and works through me, and I can feel them, him, whatever. But also I don't put them in a box. Like the Bible says that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us, and I'm starting to really believe that in my own life. So not trying to be a preachy preacher, just that it really, God is like outside the boundaries, right? And so is my brain. And so that's a cool thing that I connect with. But one last coping mechanism that I would share with anybody that's neurodiverse is, if you want a chocolate, have some, because it makes you feel good inside. Thanks for listening to my TED Talk. Not really TED Talk, but, thanks for listening. And please share the video if you think anybody can identify, or if it can help. And, print my doodle pages. Get your mind on something. Or my doodle pages are about being mindless so that your hands are busy. So yeah, do that. Thanks a lot for watching. And I hope that if you need help mental health wise, you get it. Go get it. Go get help. Okay. Love you guys. Bye.